Pascal Siakam is a player that fell under a lot of criticism for his play since the Toronto Raptors 2019 NBA Championship. He was more or less expected to become the franchise guy once Kawhi went to Los Angeles in free agency. These expectations weren't exactly unwarranted, especially when you consider the fact that he put up 23 points and 7.3 rebounds with some really solid shooting for a power forward from three. But since their championship run, he's been criticized for things like his shot selection, his decision-making in crunch time, and his decline in three-point shooting ability. But this season, since returning after missing 11 of the first 13 games of the season, he's looked like that 2019 Pascal Siakam that the Raptors fans remember. The Raptors are right there at the 8th seed at the time I'm making this video. With him and Fred VanVleet playing like all-stars, they've got the potential to put up a good fight against anybody in the playoffs. But in this video, I want to focus on what Siakam is doing this year that's so impressive, how he's continuing to improve as a player, and why I think he's going to be an integral part of Masai Ujiri and Nick Nurse's unheard of roster construction that aims to change how rosters are built in the NBA. We're going to be covering a lot in today's video, so be sure to stick around until the end so that you don't miss anything. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. Now, there's a ton to like about what Siakam has been doing this year, but it seems logical to start off with what he's been doing as a scorer so far. He's shooting significantly better at the rim this year, up to 74.5% from the 69% that he was during last season. As a matter of fact, it's his highest field goal percentage at the rim of his entire career so far. He's been absolutely killing it when he's been able to get to the rim. He just seems a lot more comfortable in his ability to get a good look at the basket. He's also been finishing with his offhand really well from what I've seen. Here, he's got the ball in transition, and he notices the great screen on Powell by Gary Trent Jr., so he blows right by Dame and gets a favorable mismatch with Powell guarding him. So he posts up, loses Powell, and gets the nice layup over Nurkic. He wasn't flustered, he just processed the defense and did what he needed to do to get the bucket. His off-ball movement to get a shot at the rim has looked really good as well. On this inbound play, the ball gets to Watanabe at the top of the key. Siakam is in the corner and VanVleet sets a good screen so that Siakam can split between the two defenders. Watanabe, to his credit, makes an awesome pass off of Siakam's cut for an easy bucket at the rim. He's just been a really solid off-ball mover this year. One thing that I really like is that he isn't playing recklessly. He's not playing as chaotic as he was last year and years prior. But how has he been as an isolation scorer? I saw a lot of criticism being directed towards his tendency to get some tunnel vision on offense last year and how it often resulted in bad shots and turnovers. So in that area, how has he been able to improve? Well, in isolation, I think he's looked pretty good this year. He's actually got the second highest field goal percentage in isolation of all players with 4 or more isolation possessions per game. There's a lot less of the spin move that became synonymous with his game and more of him using his body and ball handling ability to create reliable space to get a shot off. People forget, Siakam is 6'9" and 230 pounds. He should be able to bully most guys that he gets matched up with, and I think he's starting to realize that, and coupled with his more comfortable ball handling ability, it's resulting in a lot better isolation possessions. A year ago, these non-restricted area shots would have been short off of the front iron. This year, he's shooting a really solid 45.2% on non-restricted area paint shots, which is up from 42% last year. This improvement in his shooting, while not the most top-to-bottom scoring threat in the NBA, has resulted in his game becoming a lot more difficult to game plan for, as he's not nearly as much of a one-trick pony anymore. Even his three-point shooting is starting to look like it could be back trending upwards. This year, he's shooting 34.4% from three on 3.4 attempts per game. For some context, in 2019, he was shooting a really solid 35.9%, but dipped down to 29.7% last year. It's good to see that his shooting touch could potentially be returning for him. But what about his defense this season? The Raptors haven't exactly been the best defense in the league this year, so how has Siakam been able to contribute on that end? Well, he's certainly been one of their primary defensive contributors, and I'd argue he's still their defensive anchor this year. It's kind of hard to gauge his impact as a spectator because these lineups that the Raptors are running are so unique in that they could be running Siakam at center, even though he's only 6'9". When he's on the court, their defensive rating is 2.7 points per 100 possessions better than when he's off the court. Opponents shoot 5.4% worse at the rim compared to their average when guarded by Siakam. So even as a smaller big man, he's able to impact shots around the basket. He's getting 2.7 blocks per 75 possessions as well, so it's safe to say that he has been a positive on defense, even if that's an area that hasn't been a strong suit for the Raptors this year. But one area of his game that I really wanted to talk about is his playmaking ability. He's been operating as a secondary playmaker for the Raptors this year, and it's an area of his game that's really starting to show through more and more. At a glance, 4.8 assists isn't really a jaw-dropping number, but doing this from the power forward position while also having another strong playmaker in Fred VanVleet alongside you is a testament to Siakam's playmaking. I really like this play that the Raptors have. Let's take a look. Here he initiates the pick and roll with VanVleet, but the defense immediately tries to cut it off. Scottie makes the smart cut and Siakam knows where he's going to be and he hits him for the easy bucket. He's also looked pretty good at making plays in transition. Here he gets the ball in transition and then splits the defenders with a really nice bounce pass to hit Mikhailuk for the running layup. He just has so many good reads under pressure, and it's a nice development to see in a player that many people had concerns about his tunnel vision on offense. Another example of his playmaking ability, here he drives up the middle and he knows that Cade Cunningham is likely going to apply pressure on his drive. Once Cade commits to trying to steal the ball, he kicks out to Trent Jr. for a wide open three-point shot. He's also making the most of his screens this year and using that as a primary tool in his playmaking arsenal. Here, he passes to Gary Trent Jr. and immediately sets a hard screen in front of Trent's defender, allowing Gary Trent Jr. to get the shot off. So, what are some realistic expectations for Siakam this year and going forward? If I'm being completely honest, I think that he's been a borderline all-star caliber player this year, with the only thing holding him back is the fact that he's missed more games than some of his competitors. Next year, with a whole offseason under his belt and with good health, I see absolutely no reason he can't return next year as an all-star. He fits perfectly in this all big men roster that Ujiri seems to be constructing, and he's still only 27 years old, so he's just now entering his prime as a player. He can be an integral part of this Raptors team for years to come. They've had one of the most efficient rebuilds of any team in the league, and I think Siakam is one of the primary pieces that's going to play a role in this team contending for future championships. So what do you think of Siakam this season? Should he be an all-star? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel and leave a like, because that's the #1 way to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.